All right, boys, today we're going to be checking out the new Intel microcode. I'm assuming if you found and you're watching my channel, you're more in the camp of I want to make my PC work by myself, because the mainstream, as you saw, 18 months after a CPU launch, you might get a microcode that makes your PC work. You could have been gaming for the last 18 months, right? Always take care of yourself. Okay, so with that out of the way, what we're going to do in this video is very simple. We're just going to do a straight before and after of the new microcode. We're going to check clock speeds, voltage, power draw, heat, and then we're going to benchmark two games. We're going to do Rift Breaker and Warzone. The reason we're going to use Rift Breaker and Warzone is because these two benchmarks will show us any differences, even the slightest ones, in terms of performance. So if the new microcode has any debauchery whatsoever, these games will pick it up. Now for the test rig, we're going to use my system because it has a 14900 KS in it, and that is definitely the most egregious offender of the voltage spike issue. So for my motherboard with the Apex Encore, I just switched it over to the backup BIOS so we can FAFO as much as we want and I don't have to worry about losing my tune, right? So the BIOS version that we're going to start off with here is version 1102. This is the BIOS version that I use. This is the one right before the whole Intel baseline profile shit came out. The entire Intel baseline profile, TVB, eTVB, all that nonsense just made stability worse. So this one is definitely the best one. Again, if you know what you're doing and you know how to tune your system manually. Okay, so we're back. Now we're on the 8P cores, 5.9 gigahertz, everything 100% stock. XMP is enabled. Now, the reason why we enabled XMP for this test is because you can think of memory speed as, this is like the easiest way I can explain it, but you can think of memory speed, max memory speed, as adding IPC onto the CPU clocks. So we'll see larger differences, if there are any, with higher memory speeds. Basically, you get better clock speed scaling with higher memory speeds. Now, the first test we're going to do here is we're just going to run Intel XTU with AVX2 start testing. So now we got CPU core is almost 1.4 looks like. All the cores are at this CPU, by the way, is direct die, so that's why this is okay the way it is. So you would not be able to run this CPU out of the box, like I said in the review for this CPU, but this one isn't degraded at all. So we're just going to wait for this test to finish, and then we're going to log the maximum vCore recorded. Right now, it's at about 1.403 volts. Well, we'll leave the test going to see if it spikes up any higher. So we're actually just coming up on the end of the test here, and the CPU actually kissed 1.43 volts, which is crazy. So even though the average might be around 1.39, 1.38, that spike, baby, 1.43 right here, max voltage. It's the spikes that are killing these CPUs. So on this older BIOS here, your CPU would regularly be spiking itself to 1.43, and then over the span of 6-7 months or whatever, kill the CPU, right? So I'm running Rift Breaker right now, and you can see on the left, top left here, all the cores are locked to 5.9. I'm also using the Ultimate Power Plan in Windows, but you can see that we're kind of pulling around 165, 170 watts out of the CPU, out of the box, just on this benchmark. And then we're going to record these results, 269, 184. Now, the Call of Duty benchmark is the built-in one, I want to say, is very graphics card heavy. That's why it's a horrible indicator of performance in an actual Warzone game. So what we got to do to actually see the CPU differences here, we got to crank this down to 480p. Wait, is this actually going to...
What have I done?
See, even at 720p, we're hitting 99% usage on the graphics card. So we gotta That's crazy. I gotta 480p it. You know what we can do? Render resolution, baby. 300 and let's see if we can actually see the screen. Oh, it's not bad. Okay. Let's try this again. Mother of God. 400p. And we're at 90% usage. 95. Dude, I've seen 8-bit games with denser pixels than this. So let's record this. Then we got 491. And it should show that we're not GPU bottlenecked at all. Yeah, 3%. So that's good. So we got 491 and 323. Okay, so here are our 3 results pre-new microcode. So I'm gonna go and flash the new BIOS now. It's a new beta one from the Asus website, came out yesterday, I think. And then we're gonna run these tests again. While the BIOS is updating, this video was brought to you by the supporters of the channel. All content on this channel is supporter backed, no corporate overlords, no sponsorships. Those guys give me money every month so that they can actually get their PCs running 18 months ago. Real talk though, whenever like a new platform does come out, my Discord is very good at pinpointing and finding the issues and making it just work. It's basically an entire Discord of dudes that just want to play games and that don't have time for this shit. So if that sounds like you, head on over to framechasers.org, become a supporter, get access to the Discord where all information is 100% curated and filtered to have zero misinformation. Zero. For God's sakes, though, if you do join the Discord, read the rules. We've had like 6 guys that got banned this week alone just because they didn't read the rules for 5 minutes. So if everything that we're covering here today is kind of alien speak to you, I do have a couple of 13900KS Z790 Hero bundles on the cheap on my website. If you want maximum frame rates, but you don't want to deal with any of this crap, and you never want your CPU to degrade, framechasers.org/shop. Grab one of those cheap Hero bundles, and you never have to worry about any of this shit ever again. Okay, so we're back up here. And we're on 1503. That's the latest beta BIOS from the Asus website. The only difference I can see so far is that the CPU is idling down to like 1.1 volts, even though we're on ultimate performance power plan. See, 1.279, and the CPU is downclocking it. So it's like it like overrode the 1.19. Yeah, it like overrode the. Oh, you know what I think they did? Hang on. I think I know what they did, but let's do the testing first, and I'll reveal it at the end of the video. Okay, so let's start with the exact same XTU test. Start. Clock speed. CPU current throttled. Okay. Downclocked to 5.7 already. 1.43. Yes, the exact same. So it's still going to degrade. Nothing changed. 1.439. It's even worse. Well, we don't even need to do the other tests. Just it's throttling down to 5.7, and it's still spiking to 1.44 volts. So your shit's still going to degrade. Once again, take care of yourself. Tune your machines. Do not let boost algorithms. Look at this shit. Seeing this should make you want to learn how to take care of yourself. Okay, we just finished Rift Breaker. It's basically the exact same. It looks like the FPS is a bit higher. That's just margin of error, guys. Don't worry about that. So we're going to run it one more time, but this time I'm going to reset the voltage logging, and I want to see what voltage it hits while it's actually running the benchmark in the game. Right? 1.4. Yeah, so it's still going to degrade over time. That hasn't changed. You can't run 1.4 volts into a stock CPU, right? And this CPU that I'm using here, this 14900KS, is the best bin that I've come across. So you might have one that might be shoving like 1.45 into it right now. You can do this exact same test at home as well. Just launch hardware info, check the voltage while the benchmark's running, and then if it's at 1.375 volts or higher, that's even pretty aggressive. If it's at 1.35 or higher, you got to bring that shit down. So I'm actually just installing the shaders here on COD, and it's already been like 30 seconds or so, and it's not downclocking itself. So I'm not sure if that's just the Apex motherboard or if it's all of them, but it's not hitting PL2 for some reason, right? By now you would have seen it go down to whatever the hell the PL2 is for the CPU. Or it might have been Asus that did that as well, but the stock Intel guidelines are not being met here. So it's almost been like 2-3 minutes now, and it's still locked all the cores at 5.9, even with stock settings, which isn't a bad thing. I like that. I think that's better. But they probably did that so that mainstream reviewers don't lose performance in their benchmarks, right? Yeah, so this looks exactly the same. I do have a theory of what they're doing here, though. You'll see. Okay, so the FPS is the exact same, whatever. So, let me tell you what I think Intel is doing here. It's very sneaky and very underhanded. I'm not sure if anybody else is going to pick this up. So, interestingly enough, I am running single-core Cinebench right now, and it hasn't hit 6.2 gigahertz at all on any of the cores, which is interesting. So I wonder if they actually did remove that single core boost shit. Oh no, it just did. There it is. Oh my god, dude. For literally half a second. As I just said that. Oh, here. 1.44, yeah. So it's all the same shit. Okay, here's what they did. So my theory on what they're doing with this, because all the performance is the exact same and the single core boost shit is still there, right? Now, remember how I was talking about power plan before, right? Most people aren't going to run ultimate performance power plan anyway. It's just the first thing that came to mind of what was going on. So I think what Intel is doing here, so if you look at the voltages, the CPU is kind of spending half of its time, even more than that. Look at that. It's spending the majority of its time at a safe voltage. So what I think they're doing literally is they're forcing idle states onto the CPU to prolong its lifespan. Because the CPU should never be downclocking with ultimate performance power plan. It should be sitting at 5.9 the entire time, but it's still forcibly downclocking itself. So basically what Intel's goal here with what they did is they're trying to get the CPU to downvolt itself and idle as much as possible to prolong that lifespan, prolong the degradation time, so that when you're out of warranty, it's too late. Which isn't a bad thing overall. It's actually a good thing. Why would you waste power in Windows just chilling doing nothing? It's just, I feel like it's a little deceiving to idle the guy's processor when they're in Windows with a max power plan enabled, by the way. They're in Windows surfing the web, their CPU's idling, and then they're still shoving 1.44 volts into the CPU under gaming workloads, right? Yeah, you know. And as we all know, people that watch hardware content don't play games. So you basically never have to worry about your CPU degrading. Now, if you were a Call of Duty streamer and you were playing Call of Duty 12, 14 hours a day, yeah, you'll just have the same problem as you did before, where it's going to degrade real quick. Here, I'll illustrate this idea with paint, right? So let's say this is, 1 year of life from your CPU, right? Now, let's say this is stock voltage locked at 1.4 volts, right? And it's like this at the top. This is the average voltage that your CPU endured for that 1 year, right? Now, let's say the previous microcode, kind of like this. When you're playing games, it comes up to here, And while you're kind of just browsing windows and idling and stuff, the voltage comes down here. And then let's say you only play games for a few hours a day. And it's like this. And it's like this. And it's like this. Right? Etc. Now, the average voltage that your CPU endured for that 1 year, well, now the average is down here. If you catch my drift. Now, with the new microcode, it looks like what Intel is trying to do here is reduce the frequency of how high the voltage stays up here. So it would kind of look like this instead. It's like, whoop, like a quick tiny one. And then get right back down. And then, whoop, tiny one. Come right back down. Right? Whoop, right back down. And what the goal is here is the average voltage of your CPU over the span of that year is now down here. Let me try a different color here. Purple. It's now down here. Essentially extending the life and degradation time of your CPU. The less of these spikes that there are, and the less time that your CPU stays at that high of a voltage, if you zoom out over 2 or 3 years, that's a lot more lifespan. Now, will this stop your CPU from degrading? It doesn't look like it because it's still shoving 1.4 million volts into it for small bursts of time, right? It's still going to catch up to you over the long haul. You'll be hard pressed to find any CPUs that are 3 or 4 or 5 years old now from either vendor that hasn't degraded with regular use. Will this make your PC run if your CPU is already degraded? No, you can't reverse the damage that's already been done. So you RMA your CPU, you get a new one, you install this microcode, and then it spends so little time at the top that by the time your warranty is up, it should last that long. It's like the smartest idea in order for them to not have a lawsuit and also make the CPUs last just long enough for the warranty period to finish. Okay, so just to check my theory out here to see if it pans out at all, again, just shooting in the dark here, I flashed the 1402 BIOS. This one is the version before the latest microcode that just came out. Now, it seems like Intel was trying to do the same thing here. So check this out. As long as I move my mouse, it doesn't downvolt, right? Then when I stop moving my mouse, it downvolts, but not to the same degree as the new BIOS, right? So the new BIOS will go to like below 1 volt. This one doesn't seem to do that, right? So again, just shooting in the dark here. Let's try the BIOS version before this one and then see what happens with that one. Okay, so I'm back and I flashed the 1301 BIOS. And this one's even crazier. Like this one is sitting at 5.6 gigahertz. Sometimes boosts to 6. Sometimes this one's all over the place. I don't even know what's going on with this one. Let's check out the voltage here. Like, what the hell is this? It seems like every single different BIOS version and every single different microcode has a different boosting behavior. This one isn't even boosting down on the voltage. Oh, you guys can't see. Hang on. There you go. Yeah, this one isn't even downclocking itself. But the voltages are safe on this one, though. They're kind of sitting around 1.3. But this one's also not going past 5.6, except for that rare 6 gigahertz. Like, I have no idea what's going on with this BIOS. Okay, so now I'm back on the 1102 BIOS. And this one doesn't downclock the voltage at all. So this one is obeying the ultimate power plan profile. So that's exactly what it was, or that's exactly what Intel was trying to do the whole time. Every single BIOS version and every single microcode update was them trying to perfect the boost algorithm because the other ones weren't stable. The other ones, I guess, maybe the load lines weren't tuned well enough with the VIDs, so that they would actually crash sometimes randomly. What I'm assuming happened was it would downvolt too far, resulting in a crash of the system. That might actually happen with the new one too. I haven't been playing with it for more than an hour, I want to say. So if you do update with the new microcode and your PC is unstable anyway, it's probably because it's down volting too far for the CPU. To be frank, honestly, I've tested the 4 different BIOSes in this video, and all of them are complete dog shit. You shouldn't be using any of them. They all shove more than 1.4 volts into this 14900KS. So regardless of what microcode or BIOS version you use, you have to manually tune your system. So the best thing Intel could do without a lawsuit is make your CPU run at less than 1 volt to prolong its lifespan. Just manually tune the system yourself, and don't let boost algorithms dictate your performance or PC stability. You're giving your control away to somebody else. So the recommendation still stands. You need to lock all your cores, find your voltage sweet spot around 1.35, see what clock speed you can achieve at that voltage, lock it all there, and leave it alone. Do not use any of these BIOSes out of the box. So this is kind of a bonus round for the video, but I just want to bring people back to reality a little bit. So I went into the BIOS and did a fixed 1.35 V core. Usually I would use offsets, but I'm doing this in a rush, right? 1.35, I locked all my cores at 5.8. Let's just see how much FPS we lost with that 100 megahertz loss, but also that 0.07 voltage loss, right? So here we go. We're at 5.8 gigahertz locked, all the cores. We saved about 50 watts of power off of the CPU for that 100 megahertz. The FPS was even higher. Now, again, it's margin of error, but it's margin of error, man. So you're gonna, okay, man, oh my god, dude, I can't even anymore. So you're gonna suicide voltage your CPU and draw more power for 100 megahertz when the game benchmark can't even pick up the difference of the 100 megahertz. So if you want to leave your CPU, if you don't want to tune your system, hey man, you're on the wrong channel. We live in reality land here. We live in common sense land, okay? Oh, my bad. Never mind. I thought Rift Breaker pulled 200 watts, but it was 170. So we saved 20 watts. Anyway, though, in terms of the microcode itself, the only difference that I can see here with all the testing today is that it kind of forces an idle state no matter what, and a very aggressive idle state down to like less than 1 volt. And I believe that is an attempt to prolong the life of your CPU over the long haul. So kind of a cheeky way to stay at the top of the benchmark charts, where all of these mainstream tech tubers don't actually use their CPUs for very long periods of time, so that their CPUs will never degrade, right? Anyway, guys, I hope you learned something today. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, join the Discord, head on over to the shop and pick something up to support the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Talk to you later.